Cancer, this is your July tarot reading. It's not without its tensions, but I think July has so far been, for all the tarot, or all the zodiac signs, been a month of tensions, but also a month of getting through them. Not necessarily resolving anything, but getting through them, and often getting through them rather well. And I don't think yours is any different. I'm drawn to the top right, the Sun card, multiple blessings. So much so that people feel like you radiate, and that has to be incredibly positive. The central card there, the Two of Wands, it's a card of having decisions to make, of planning something rather radical, and I think many zodiac signs are doing exactly that in response to the turmoil there is in the world. Sometimes that turmoil may be entirely personal, but there's still huge turmoil around. You're coming into this month with a feeling probably of poverty, could be of no friends, and that almost certainly is exacerbated by a bitter and unexpected ending. You weren't expecting this at all. Maybe that's why you're having to plan. And what leads you to this wonderful, wonderful sort of blessings is lying awake at night with worry. Well, I guess if you're feeling short of money, if things have come to an end that you weren't anticipating, then that maybe is a understandable response. How that leads to the blessings, maybe it is that you realise that happiness is within and the only thing you can do is raise your vibrations. I don't know. What would change everything is you celebrating probably with friends. It could be family. In fact, it's more likely to be family. It could be something like a wedding, a christening, something like that, some sort of a celebration. Now, although the outcome is one of these blessings, after July, we have the Hangman, which is you hanging around. It could be imposed on you, but I don't necessarily think it is. I think it's you taking the decision that you don't really know the lie of the land. And remember, we had that sort of planning, those decisions to make. I think it's you deciding you don't really know what's going on. So what can you do? So better to wait before acting. And the universe does seem to have been cautioning a number of zodiac signs that this is the right thing to do. So, excuse me, you may, Cancer, feel that this is not a good month as you're going through it. But in the broad scheme of things, I don't think it's a bad month. It's a dramatic month. But it's a month that I think lays the foundation for probably further change and further good things. But yeah, it's all there. Now, I've said that the world is in massive change at the moment. And I've also said that you might be experiencing this personally rather than as global events. But nevertheless, there is massive change going on. And you're very aware of it. And a lot of people are trying to control this change. And I don't think that's the right thing to be doing. I mean, wanting to control it is good, maybe making sense of it is a better approach. But, once we've grasped what is going on, it changes again. So we need to be flexible. And I think you probably are. But the overall energy here is one of you sort of considering different courses of action. I think things feel quite radical, but then there's quite major cards in this, including major arcana. So major energies you're feeling. So no wonder your reaction is quite a radical reaction. I'm not certain that you even achieve anything in terms of planning and understanding this month. But don't let that worry you. Don't let that worry you. You know, it is a time of unprecedented change. One of those major energies, well, is it major? Maybe it's not. But one of the energies impacting on this month comes from the past. And it's certainly a feeling of poverty. Could be no friends. A feeling that you're out by yourself. Now, of course, I think most of us have got this overwhelming feeling that those people who have told us all along, you know, that they have our interests at heart, that we're safe in their hands, have realised that we're anything but. And beginning to understand that self-reliance is the only possible way to deal with that. So it could simply be that. You might be feeling a loss of money, and many of us have lost money in certain ways recently. It's often a feeling of poverty, which isn't a good thing, because that just attracts poverty, you know. I often say, what is worry but a prayer for things to go wrong? And, you know, yeah, this feeling of poverty isn't a good thing, but I would say, things are so uncertain, this probably isn't the time to be being lavish. But this definitely impacts on the other energies. Current energy is that of death, which is an energy of sudden, abrupt, and probably unwelcome endings. We don't at this stage know what it's to, but I suspect it's as much about your beliefs as it is material things. I mean, it could be a loss of a job, it could be a loss of a home, it could be a loss of a family, you know. It could be very dramatic things, but I'm just getting the feeling that it's more about your beliefs. And, you know, going back to what I said about the feeling of poverty or being by yourself and that you have to be self-reliant, it could be that, you know. I grew up in a world of social democracy. It was far from perfect, but at least we had the feeling that the state would look after us in our old age and if we were ill. And that seems to have been completely taken away from us now. Now, admittedly, I live in a country without such traditions anyway, now. But, you know, should I be back in the UK? You know, that social network has disappeared thanks to neoliberalism. And, you know, it is causing us all to refine our views. And I think this is the death of ideas more than anything. And I think reinforcing my view on the death of ideas, we have in the future, and this is the future, the hanged man. Now, it could be that this hanging around is imposed on you. And, you know, I don't think it matters whether it's sort of, I think it's a fine line between whether you've chosen it or it's been imposed on you, to be honest, at a time like this. It's you hanging around, not showing your hand, looking at what's going on and trying to fathom it out before you act. Now, if it's enforced, of course, you don't have control of when you act, whereas if you're doing it voluntarily, you do. But as I say, I think that's a fine line. To a certain degree, we're in such turmoil and change that maybe that definition isn't isn't a reasonable working definition of between whether it's imposed or whether it's sort of self-inflicted. I also get the impression that this is actually the right thing to be doing, because we know so little about the direction and future direction. Then better to wait and see. Better to submit than try and control. Of course, the overall energy is that of sort of planning, and this is a card in which you can plan, but not necessarily act. Who read tarot, or are used to tarot, might be shouting out, for God's sake, you've had the Six of Pentacles and the Death card. Why are you being so relaxed? And you're not. You're having nightmares. You're lying awake at night with worry. But as I say, what is worry but a prayer for things to go wrong? You're worried probably about money, because, we do have that poverty card. The Death card is a little like the Tower, because you've got to rebuild your life. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's necessary, but it often is. But you're just worried about, what's going to become of you. You don't seem to have got enough money. You're having to rebuild things, maybe jobs, maybe work, maybe relationships. You're having to rebuild your life, and you're lying awake worrying about it, but that won't do you any good. And I don't know if you learn something from the worry, because of the outcome. The worry leads to a very good outcome. And maybe as you're lying awake, you do submit, and you do just ask Allah, God, the universe, your ancestors, whoever, for assistance. And maybe you're granted it by raising your vibrations. Now, rather strangely, if worry leads to what I see as a very positive outcome, what would change the outcome is a lovely card, the Four of Wands. And that's an energy of celebration, joy, harmony, relaxation. And maybe it's saying that if you find this joy before the universe brings it to you, then the universe doesn't need to bring it to you. Maybe that's it. And I think you'd find your joy from your family, probably. So it probably isn't a destruction of family, this Death card. No, it probably isn't. Finding joy in your family, maybe in a family celebration. And therefore the universe doesn't need to intervene to raise your spirits, because you've raised it yourself. It's plausible. Well, I've told you the outcome's a good outcome, haven't I? The Sun. I mean, it's one of the best energies in the deck, But it's an energy of joy. So I'm thinking that through your worry, and maybe, prayer, or asking for assistance, or simply turning your problems over to a higher power, you're granted these higher vibrations, and these higher vibrations will attract good luck to you. So it is a great card, It's one of those whereby people can see the radiance coming from you. So it's a lovely, lovely outcome. But as I say, I think there's a shortcut to it via family and celebration. And well, we've got to get a bit of clarity, haven't we? Although I know what the energies are saying, I think we need a bit of clarity. And I'm going to seek clarity on this Death card. And the first card that comes out is the King of Pentacles, suggesting to me that it is an ending of something related to your finances. So, we had the card of poverty first of all, and now there's an ending of some financial matter. Could be a job, could be a business, it could be investments. Then we have the Fool card. So, I said that this death is different to the Tower, but just recently, it's often been somewhat interchangeable, and I think it is. I think this was necessary. You're having to rebuild your life, start afresh with a wide-eyed innocence. And as if to confirm that, we have the World card. A cycle coming to an end and a new one beginning. So even though it will feel probably very physical to you, there was something karmic about all this. Okay, let's look at each individually. It puts a different slant on things somewhat. Clarity is the King of Pentacles. Well, Pentacles tells me that it is about money matters or wealth. So if you remember, we started off with the Five of Pentacles, feeling of poverty. And then this is confirming death. So it's the end of something to do with wealth. So it could be an ending of your business. It could be an ending of your job. But also, the King is somebody that is rather good with money. He's somebody that at least fancies himself as a good investor. So is this about some investments coming to an end? I think that's the most likely. I mean, it could be any of those things, but I think it's the most likely. And, I'm clearly not a financial advisor, nor could I be. I'm useless at it. But what I would say to you is that every market I look at, they all seem to be rigged. Everything seems to be rigged. And what I'd say to you is that whatever you think is a sound, good investment over this year, and probably it was starting last year, they will turn out to be the exact opposite. So I think that's what we're talking about here. Now, my wife was a bit depressed last night. It was a Thursday night. She often is on a Thursday night. I won't go into the reasons why, but there is a reason. And, I recognised what was going on. And I was explaining to her my ambition to buy a big house in a very nice area of Jakarta. And she said to me, that's just crazy. You'll never have the money for that. Why are you even considering it? And I explained to her that, if you're manifesting, what's the point of manifesting something that's easy to manifest? I might as well go for the best, biggest and best, That as long as you're putting in the right sort of actions that it might happen, then, it doesn't matter whether it's a little bit of, whether it's a small house or a big house. If you're manifesting correctly, you'll get it. And so, you've been probably lost some investment. So you're starting off again, but you're starting off with a wide-eyed innocence. You're not letting the pain of the past influence you. So therefore, you're more likely to be successful this time round. Very interesting. What's being suggested to me is that this death is necessary because it's the ending of a cycle, an ending of a cycle that you've been in, and you're moving on to a new cycle. And I think you have learned the lessons from it, or we wouldn't have got that full energy, that wide-eyed innocence starting afresh. So I think you have learned from the old cycle. And this should bring luck with it as well. There's almost a karmic element to this, that it's all in your best interest. I'm sure July isn't going to feel like that to you. But it is. if you can relax and just say this is meant to happen, this is all for my advantage, then things will go a lot better. And I can summarise now for you, Cancer. Cancer, this year is one of unprecedented change, and July is no different, and you're probably going to go through July thinking what a dreadful month, but actually it's all in your interest, it's all in your best interest. You are aware of these major changes, and to a certain degree you're thinking, what can I do? But I think you learn in July not a lot. In fact, after July you're probably just thinking, well, better to see what's happening than try and control things, and that's probably the best. In fact, I do see a point in July where you're being kept awake at night with worry, and you just say, well, I can't do anything about it. I hand it over to God, Allah, the universe, my ancestors, whoever, I hand it over to them to sort, because I can't, I need help here. And that is the best thing you can be doing. You certainly enter the month feeling like you're in poverty, and I think it's a real feeling of that you really do feel like that, and it gets worse. I think it's investments, but something is going to come to an abrupt and bitter end, which is going to really shock you. I mean, it could be an end of a job, it could be an end of a business, but it's something to do with finances that you lose quite early on in this month, and undoubtedly that leads to you being kept awake at night with worry. And I think the universe intervenes because I think you do pray for help. And it comes in the shape of raising your vibrations, making you happy, making you joyous, and that will attract good things to you. So, it's not actually that bad a reading. There is a shortcut to this. I think something to do with a family. I mean, it could be something like a wedding, a christening, a baptism. Some sort of family event that you celebrate could raise your vibrations anyway, and the universe doesn't need to intervene. But as I say, you after this month, you realise there's little you can do, and you just need to relax. Take note of what is happening, and maybe plan for the future when you think times are better to do something.